Good evening, good afternoon, bonsoir, buenas noches, buenas noches to investors in North and South America. Ohio, 안녕하세요, 사와디차. 各位早晨 Good morning to investors in Asia. Buenas noches, good night, good night to investors in Europe and Africa. I'm Daniel Yu speaking from Hong Kong. It's 3rd July here and 2nd July in Wall Street. This week I have 3 main points to talk about. Number 1, rate hike future. Number 2, situation in Ukraine. Number 3, sanction on AI stocks. And for stock recommendation will be the big 7 and 3 others for the second half of this year. Subscribe, like and share. Remember to click the bell please. Watch our playlist again so as to grasp the continuous trend of the market and refresh your mind. There's a new gathering of central bank presidents in the past week in Sintra of Portugal, known as ECB Forum on Central Banking 2023. Participants included the 4 most important central bank governors, which are Jerome Powell of US Federal Reserve, Christine Lagarde of European Central Bank, Andrew Bailey of Bank of England, and Kazuo Ueda of Bank of Japan. They are known as the Big 4 of central banks. The theme of this year is called Macroeconomic Stabilization in a Volatile Inflation Environment. Make it simple is how the Big 4 can unite together to fight against the worldwide inflation. But how serious inflation is, what made them group together to fight for it. Let's look at the inflation chart of the past 25 years. This is the long-term inflation chart and fact rate where it shows it is caused by pandemic since 2020. Because of the QE policy, the Federal Reserve has to print out money to save the economy and inflation thus generated. How much money has been printed for the whole period of COVID-19? Altogether, $19 trillion have been printed to save the economy. The printed money will regenerate wealth in the economic cycle of the society. That is, when people take the money to eat in a restaurant, the business will earn some money and they will in turn go out to consume things like buying some clothes. That business, after earning money, will in turn go out to spend. Therefore, under such a cycle, each dollar printed out is expected to generate $5 in the society ultimately. This is the essence of inflation. So let's see the inflation rate of the past 25 years. It is like this, and for the 10 years chart, that is from the SARS of 2023 till now, is like this. From the 5-year chart, it can be seen easily that it rose from mid-2020 till now. When we refer to the interest rate cycle, it can be seen that in mid-2020, the US interest rate has gone down to 0. So when interest rate rose above the standard of 2.0%, it was in April 2021, inflation rate was at 2.6%. Why is there no action from the Fed? Because they said that inflation was just temporary. It was because of the retaliation in consumption. People grouped together to take out money to spend. It won't last long, so no need to take any action. They kept on having no reaction until 1 year later, which is March 2022, inflation went up to 7.9% on March the 10th, and rate hike cycle started on March 16th, 2022. When readers want to know clearly the whole process of inflation in accordance with rate hike, please refer to video 10 at 2022-1219. There is a step-to-step explanation over there. Anyway, the peak of inflation was at June 2022, which is 9.1%, and the latest inflation rate is 4.0%, which is still far away from the 2.0% standard, even though the current rate hike cycle is the steepest since 1980s. So how about the European Central Bank and Bank of England, as said in last video, which is video 37 at 2023-0626? The European inflation rate is 7.1% and interest rate is 4.0%. The UK inflation rate is 7.9% and interest rate is 5.0%. Superficially, they are at a positive interest rate, but when deducting inflation, they are negative. However, the US inflation is 4.0% and interest rate is 5.00 to 5.25%. They are in general positive way. The US inflation is controlled, but still above the standard of 2.0%. Other central banks are mostly in high tension also. Above all, there's a worry of recession in the second half of this year, and people normally afraid of the Russian-Ukraine conflict will consume a lot of ammunition, which will bring about hyperinflation. This time, the supply of arms to Ukraine is not only done by the US, but the whole Western world. Russia also got help from Iran, North Korea, and China. So what's the actual effect? From this chart, we can see the help from US to Ukraine, no matter in terms of arms, finance, or humanism, is the highest among all countries, but when in comparison with the Korean War, Vietnam War, Iraqi and Afghanistan War, Ukraine is the least, for US only takes our money and send no troop support. When the audience want to understand further, please refer to video 27 at 2023-0417. So how about the recession? We have to take a look at the GDP announced last Thursday, which is the final figures of Q1. It is still at 2.0%, the positive rate. It means the chance of recession is not as good as before, or even when it comes to recession, would not be too deep. When we further take a look at the PCE on Friday, when people said the inflation focus of the Fed is based upon the PCE and not CPI, we can also see it is lowered from 4.344% to 3.849%. The drop is not so great, but still a good news. Core PCE also dropped from 4.679% to 4.616%. So investors need not be so pessimistic. This is the first time that European Central Bank is holding such a forum to call for the Big Four to discuss. 3 of them agree to keep on raising interest rate, except for the Bank of Japan, which is in easing condition. The forum is established and try to replace the glamour of the annual meeting of the Fed, which is run by Kansas District Fed in Jackson Hole in August. Both of them are known as annual meeting. What the market cares about most is the dot-plot chart of the Federal Reserve. It is shown there will be 2 rate hikes this year, but the Chicago rate probabilities show only 1 rate hike would occur. So last week in the Congress hearing, Powell released those speeches that whether the rate hike is once or twice had to be dependent on the coming situation, and it's hard to say now. In the ECB forum, he released speeches that there would be 2 rate hikes. After that, he immediately flown to Madrid to attend the seminar of Spanish Central Bank and said there may be 2 consecutive rate hikes. So when we refer to the CME target rate, the chance of increasing interest rate for 25 basis points in July 26 is 84.3%. And in 2023, there would not be any rate hike. In 2024, the rate cut originally was at January and now shifted to March 20th. Among the 7 chances, the cutting of 25 basis points is the largest, which is 34.7% only, not yet over half. So let's wide open our eyes and see who will hit the target. Double chart, Chairman Powell or CME target rate. As for the mutiny in Russia, it is a record breaker. Never in the world had history had a mutiny be compromised in 24 hours, for it is a life or death fighting, and the result is even more dramatic than Korea dramas. Anyway, the authority of Putin is being challenged, and people are afraid of dominion effect. Prigozhin of Wagner Group is in Belarus now and is set to form another group of 50,000 people again, and he abandoned the 20,000 people on the way to Moscow. China at once turned the attitude from supporting Russia to supporting Ukraine and claimed its sovereignty integrity should be based on 1991, which includes Crimea. It is simple that everyone knows that Russia is going to be defeated, and now Western countries are arranging for the reconstruction of Ukraine after the war. China may also want to take part in the reconstruction contracts. But now they all come to a compromise that the 5G of Huawei would not be used because of the security. And Zhongxin telecommunication will also be pressed down by the US, so the portion of China in reconstruction is quite limited, but planning for such a large project is beneficial to the world economy, and thus the chance of recession is lowered also. I have said numerous times, without the F-16, Ukraine cannot do anything, and that's why their counter-attack is so slow. Also said, without China, Russia cannot win the war, and now proved correct. Anyway, I have already said several months ago that around the summer solstice of June 21st, there will be a decisive battle, and even show a group of cameramen were shooting for the start of summer by the underground station of the Hong Kong University to welcome the advent of summer. It proves financial astrology and the Chinese Geomancy really works. Investors can search around the internet or ask the ChatGPT, whosoever had made such a forecast, or enter this website for more details. US and Netherlands will tighten their sanctions against China and Russia, especially on the DUV machines. Their target is to paralyze Zhongxin. for they found that the technology exporting to China will be used for military purpose and in turn make weapons to fight with the US. So even TSM in China has to be moved out and back to Arizona as their base. Please refer to video 32 at 2023-0522 that the whole project is fixed by the G7 and now it's just carrying out. Samsung also had a project of killing Taiwan by giving more than double pay to TSM engineers for headhunting, and ultimately TSM used the method of developing plants in Arizona to solve all the problems. Ultimately, we come to the conclusion that all the above factors are beneficial to the market, and three major indices are again all over the watershed of bull market again. Already said, the summer solstice is not only beneficial to Ukraine but also to the whole market. Last closing price of Dow Jones is 34407 and Bull Market Watershed is 34392. S&P closed at 4450 and Watershed is at 4189. Nasdaq closed at 13787 and Watershed is 12105. Hallelujah, Amitabha, Allahu Akbar. So for stock recommendations, please mind the big seven of MAGNT, MMAAGNT, which are Meta, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Google, Nvidia and Tesla. Apple at $193, which a total asset of $3 trillion. Microsoft is the second to test the 3 trillion target. Nvidia will test the 2 trillion target as well as the West 5. Amazon is left behind and can watch closely. Google is just finished adjusting. Meta is in nice rising trend. Tesla, even face keen competition, still will rise. Also, 3 more stocks of chips like TSM. The 250 SMA has curved upward since June and adjustment has been done, so it's time for buying. AMD found support at 50 SMA and can protrude up the 10 SMA, so it's also time to buy. ASML also finished adjusting. At the beginning of this year, it was already said that the second half will be better than the first half, and on 30th June, the closing prices of 3 major indices are all above bull market watershed, and also forecast peace will arrive in Ukraine within the rapid east wave for good news and have celebration for record high in the second half of this year, higher than ever. So again, subscribe, share and like, please. Sayonara, auf Wiedersehen, adieu, bye bye. See you next week.